Hey, what's up, guys? Houston here. Look, I get it. Some of you all may think that, well, I don't have a job. I'm not going to get qualified for a loan. And that's not true. I seen a comment. A guy said I was lying that you cannot get approved for a loan without a job. Well, because he's undereducated, let me break it down so for those that are questioning what I'm saying, you'll understand. There's multiple ways to get approved for a loan without having a job. That's the mental problem with a lot of people, is that they think they have to have a job in order to live or survive, and that's not true. Okay? Long as you have a source of income, that's all the banks ask. Do you have a source of income? Now, let me break it down in terms of where do you get that source of income besides working that raggedy job? Okay, you have your bank statements, you have unemployment benefits, you have government benefits, you have your profit and losses from your business, you have your tax return, you have your 1099. Okay, so when people say you can't get a loan or a credit card without a job, they're just low level, undereducated, okay? And so I don't want you all to listen to those type of people because they're not a help to you nor themselves, all right? So that's the reason why I'm bringing this up. You even can show proof of child support. What about when you retire? You have your pension plans, you have your 401k plans. That's just to name a few ways that you actually still can get approved for a loan without having a job. So just get that in mind. Now, these lenders I'm going to talk about, the reason I'm choosing these lenders is because they work with people with all types of income. Okay, not only that, if you have a low credit score, if you have a high debt to income ratio, but you're able to show proof and your availability to pay the loan back. Okay, now the first one we're talking about is with Upgrade. All right, now here's the thing about it with Upgrade. People will go over the Upgrade because they start at a credit score of 300. Here's the thing about it that most people don't understand. With Upgrade type of lender, all right, they use other metrics. How long you been on your job? How long you been at your place of residency? How long? How much education you got? Okay, they use multiple variables to determine what they can do for you as far as giving you a loan. Now they offer you loans up to $50,000. Okay, now you cannot have a recent bankruptcy on your file. Okay, you cannot have current collections on your file. The DTI, they will work with people with a DTI up to 75%. Now, your credit file does have to be at least 2 years old. You have to have at least 2 to 3 trade lines on the credit file. Okay, so that means with the aging of the credit file. All right, now here's another thing, is that with some of these lenders, you may get denied, and it's not because of the credit score, it's because the application, because they may be using third-party credit bureaus, okay? And since these type of companies are using actual AI to determine is your address accurate, is the information accurate and stuff like that, that AI address may not be competitive to the address that you put on the application. Okay, so what happens is with AI, they're digging up information, financial information from these third-party credit bureaus like Clarity, DataX, LexisNexis, Factor Trust, okay, Teletrack. So they're digging up the information from these here institutions. Now, with these type of third-party institutions, they may have outdated old information on you. So what that means is that they may have information that's coming from you had moved from another state, or you moved from apartment A to apartment B, and they still have apartment A. So they're using old data. So you have to be very careful. That's the reason if you pull your real credit report, and you'll see all these outdated addresses and stuff. The thing about it, these third-party credit bureaus are feeding this to the major credit bureaus, which own the third-party credit bureaus. So that's the reason these addresses continue to stay on your credit file. If you all like this video, I appreciate you. Give me the support, give me the likes. I'm really trying to get at least 1,000 likes per video so that I can push it up in the algorithm. So if you all don't mind as I share this information, I really appreciate it, okay? And subscribe as well. Now, the next lender we want to talk about is Upstart. Okay, so with Upstart, they work with you at a 580. Again, they pull Experian and TransUnion. Now, all of these lenders will be doing a soft pull on the credit. Only when you actually accept whatever they are willing to give you is when they actually will do the hard pull. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, most of these here lenders also, they're not using FICO 8 systems. They're using FICO 9 systems. So by you adding authorized users, by you adding rental payments, by you adding subscriptions, by you adding utility bills, and also, as I stated before, you can actually add utility bills onto your credit file, and that would actually help aid your credit file as well as the authorized users. Okay, so just so that you all are aware of this, not only just a trade line, but it also adds history to the credit file. All right, so I hope that helps you. But going back to Upstart, 580 credit score. Credit file has to be at least 2 years old. Now, here's the thing about it with Upstart. When you are approved for a loan with them and you open up a checking account, you deposit at least $1,000, they'll give you $200, okay? So that's the thing about it. With some of these lenders, they're trying to become banking institutions as well, all right? And so that's something to incentivize you to sign up with Upstart. Now, another lender is Avant, all right? And so with Avant, you have a 580 credit score, 70% debt to income ratio. The annual income for Avant, they say you need to be making at least $20,000 a year, right? So averaging most people $1,200 a month. After taxes, it usually breaks down to at least $500, okay? Discretionary, all right? So they're usually going to pull Experian, all right? So that's the thing about it. Some of these breaking down is because the more information you understand about them, that way you don't have to actually end up just applying for something hoping that they are going to approve you. You would have more concrete information. All right. Then you have Best Egg. Now with Best Egg, they go up to $50,000. By the way, Avant goes up to $35,000 for those of you that may have missed that. Best Egg goes up to $50,000. Okay. Now, usually with Best Egg, again, they work with 70% DTI as well. All right. Now with Best Egg, they said they fluctuate about a 580. I would tell you with them, you probably want to go in with about a 610 or 620 credit score. All right. But when you are denied from Navy Federal and you're trying to get a loan because you have a high debt to income ratio and a low credit score, then you have to look for other alternatives in order to help you. Now, you also have low credit finance. Now, with low credit finance, it is a platform. However, low credit finance has a higher approval than a lot of these other lenders that, and the reason is because it's a platform, it makes it much easier for them to help find you a loan. Okay. Now, in terms of being on, like I stated, disability, government benefits, they are willing to work with people. Also, with low credit finance, they use tribal lenders as well. And so with tribal lenders, they don't have as much red tape. Okay, and so by them not having as much red tape as your traditional banks and credit unions makes it much easier. Now with low credit finance, the interest rate starts at 5.99 up to 35.99. Okay, now for you guys that are entrepreneurs, okay, and you're trying to look for a loan and you have bad credit, then you may want to check out Lendeska. Okay, so Lendeska is a platform. Again, they work with entrepreneurs, minimum of 580 credit score. Okay, excuse me, not 580, it's a 550 credit score with Lendeska, and minimum annual income is $25,000 a year. All right. So again, you're not looking at a whole lot of money in terms of with some of these lenders that you have to be making. All right. They're not looking at the credit score or focus mainly on the credit score. They focus mainly on what type of deposit. That's the reason, like when I mention these type of lenders, they're mainly looking at is your average deposit is between 3 to 4 months. Okay. And can you prove that? Now, you may not have a registered business, okay? And that's okay. You know, if you're doing a side gig and you having it in a regular checking account, that's okay. However, I would tell you it's better if you actually register your side gig as a real business. Because if you do that, you'll get access to more money even if you have bad credit, long as you can show proof of revenue in the business. All right. So that's the reason why I tell you guys, it's always a way to do things. It's just in a matter of if you're willing to make the sacrifice to do it. All right. So if you need help with registering your business, then you can click the link in the description, schedule a one-on-one consultation. All right. Now, another place, if you're an entrepreneur, you have at least a 620 DT and your DTI is around 60%, you would look at Dreamspring. Now, Dreamspring was part of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Okay, now they use Upstart as their platform, their AI platform, to determine if they're going to help you qualify. Now, usually they would look at LexisNexis, okay, and they would look at TransUnion, FICO 9, but they offer lines of credit as well as business loan. Now, I would tell people because they offer the lines of credit up to $50,000, I would actually go for that line of credit, because once you get the line of credit, they're only charging you interest on what you actually borrow or you actually use, and not on the whole amount like when you're taking out a loan. Then you also have universal credit. Okay. And so here's the situation with universal credit. Again, 75% debt to income ratio. All right. You have to have at least 2 trade lines on the file. Credit file has to be at least 2 years old, because they are using Upstart's AI platform to determine if they're going to qualify. However, they are offering loans up to $50,000. Now, here's my thing. Again, out of all transparency, I tell you, most of the time with a lot of these lenders, you may want to have at least $35,000 and up in income. Now, that's household income. That may not have to be just your income alone. That's the household income. So if you have a spouse that's working, then you can combine your income, or you may be on government benefits, but you may be renting out a room, so you're sharing the expenses, and that can increase. That income from sharing the expenses can increase your income as well. Now, I would also tell you in reference to utilities. Okay, so in terms of not utilities, but like rental. Now, most of the time, a lot of these lenders, they go off in terms of the amount of rent you're paying. So I always tell you, if you look at your income, you never want to go above 15 to 20% of your income, okay, in order to qualify for these loans as well. All right. So this is just a few of them. There's one more to help you guys. It's a CDFI, and that's Opportune. Now, Opportune goes up to $10,000, but the minimum after taxes income you have to have is at least $500, okay? And you don't even have to have a social to qualify with them, all right? Just keep in mind with some of these here lenders, the interest rates may be a little higher than your traditional banks or credit union. However, because they're more flexible, because you may have higher debt than your traditional banks or credit union, then they may still be more applicable to apply with versus you going to a bank or credit union where you know you're going to get turned down. Okay, so I hope this video helps you. If you have any other questions about business credit funding, personal credit funding, removing negative items off the credit, click the link in the description. Schedule a one-on-one consultation. Thank you.